Welcome to Let's Wine. Today we're launching a very special series of 3 episodes called First in Line, and it's inspired by our great guest, Felicia Travaillot, and her nickname, Felixandra the Great. Felicia, Feli, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the last episode. Hopefully this is not the last time that we'll see you.
No, at all.
And today we're going to be drinking a Sauvignon Blanc. I know you're into white or not?
I like whites.
Well, cheers. Cheers to you
Cheers.
and for being our guest. So, Feli, today it's probably going to be one of our most personal episodes because we're both female executives in our mid to late 40s. And we're going to be talking about one of the topics that we have never discussed on camera, which is perimenopause. And I know you, thank you for having the honesty to share this with our audience, because I know for a lot of women, this episode will specifically resonate with them. So tell us a little bit about your experience and what were some of the symptoms that you started experiencing?
You know, I think it's one of the most important things to say before even talking about symptoms is, I think as we get into our 40s, we start feeling all of these things that we're just not ourselves anymore. But you really don't know what it is. And I'm just going to say what I shouldn't say, and it's the medical industry will gaslight us. You go to your doctor's office and you're like, I don't feel quite myself. I feel very tired. I have all these weird things, my itchy ear, random like little pinpricks that none of it makes sense. And they're like, oh, it's in your head. And the reality is you really start looking more into the research and hearing from other women that are talking about it more prominently. You start realizing that these symptoms are actually your body going through perimenopause. And for me, it really where it all started was, the high blood pressure, the weight gain, which are directly correlated to each other. And then you start feeling, for me, it was more on the hormonal side with the anxiety. I was starting to feel like little things that in another time probably wouldn't set me off, were setting me off. So I was having intense panic attacks. With the pressure at work, I was drowning in a glass of water. I was having emotional fits at the office, and I was seeing myself have a lot of intense, moments with my coworkers where I never really was that type of a person. And little by little, other symptoms started popping up. I started feeling this squeezing feeling in my head, which was my blood pressure. Then it was randomly waking up at 3:00 in the morning in a crazy cortisol spike. I didn't know it at the time, but now that I've learned, I realize it's your cortisol. Your cortisol is going nuts during perimenopause, and it just jolts you awake. The stress of work was creating a lot of anxiety for me. And then I was even dreaming that I was having a panic attack, only to wake up to actually having hyperventilation. So I was hyperventilating in my sleep, but dreaming that I'm having a panic attack. So all of these symptoms, I was just like, what is going on? And I got to a point where I went to my primary care office and I said to my doctor, I broke down in her office, started crying, and I said, I can't cope with life anymore. I am at the borderline of I'm going to quit this marketing job, and I don't want to do this career anymore. And I want a simple job where I work at Victoria's Secret or some fashion store and just sell beautiful things to people and have a nice time. And that's where I couldn't see myself doing this for another 20, 30 years before retirement. And that's when I really started diving into what is going on with my body. And at the time, my doctor was very quick to put me on Lexapro, which is an anti-anxiety medication. I've never taken these kinds of medications before. Not that it's an issue for people that do, but for me personally, I choose to not put so much medication into my body. So it was a struggle. It took me a month to actually start taking it because I was scared. But once I did, it did help. And it took the edge off, and it allowed me to clear my thinking. And and kind of start understanding what is going on with my body. So that was just kind of some of the nutshell symptoms.
Thank you for being so authentic, Feli, because uh, it's hard. It's hard to talk about it. I got officially diagnosed. I'm in a perimenopausal stage. Why do you think it's so hard for us women to talk about this? Why is there such a big stigma?
I think that anything that has to do, like when you think of like, menstruation, period, it's always been, ew, gross, girls, they bleed. That's gross. Girls give birth and it's like your insides are coming out and it's all this gross medical stuff. Right. And I think that people are just kind of just very shy about wanting to talk about it. And because people are just grossed out about it, especially men, when I say people. But also, I don't think that women are properly educated.
Absolutely.
The medical industry doesn't educate or prepare women for this. So we kind of go into it in our 40s blinded, not knowing the onslaught of attacks that we're about to have in our 40s, and then not understanding what's going on. And then you feel like you're crazy, and then people at work think you're crazy because you're going through, all of this craziness, emotionals, outbursts and things, but it's not you, it's your body and it's your hormones that are causing you to be this way. It's completely out of control. So, this is exactly why I want to bring it to the light. I talk about perimenopause in my meetings all the time. I work with a ton of men all the time, and I will always talk about, oh, my perimenopause, I'm having a forgetful moment. Sorry, guys. Oh, I'm in a hormone rage right now. Like, I make it uncomfortable.
Well, cheers to that. I love that. I think we all should copy your modus operandi, which is great. And I know you're documenting your journey. So where can our audience follow you? TikTok?
Yeah, so I do have my TikTok channel where I just started. I've only done a couple of posts, but I do want to be more vocal about it. So, TikTok is where you'll find it, and I'll be doing more posts in the near future.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And we'll put your all of your channels here so that everybody can follow you. Now, Feli, you talk about something really important, which is advocating for our own health. And that's something that we, especially females, we don't tend to do. We don't advocate for ourselves when we feel bad. We tend to ignore it, put it to the side. And how do you advocate for yourself?
So, and I think this all, again, it stems from all of, we women are warriors. And I think that we need to take a moment here to stop and give ourselves a standing ovation. Every woman that is watching this right now, because we go through a lot physically, mentally, emotionally, and men may be the stronger ones muscle wise, but we are definitely the stronger ones in everything else. I mean, we give birth, we go through all of, different types of, illnesses and things that affect women more than men. And again, it's kind of going back to the same thing of it's I guess a stigma, as a woman in the workplace, you get judged because, oh, you can get pregnant. We don't want to hire a woman because then they're going to be out and they're raising the children. They can't do both. But, oh, we can do both. We have been doing both because we are able to multitask. But there's always that stigma and that kind of hesitance of, women in the workplace are just problematic. So I want to advocate for us because, I think that we have shown and demonstrated that we can do a lot, and if we don't fight for ourselves and we don't stand up for ourselves and we don't advocate for ourselves, who will? We're just going to let the men rule us. And I'm sure there's men watching and we love you guys. It's not a bashing session, but it is a reality of what we are facing. And it would be nice if our, fellow colleagues in the industry would be more supportive of the things that we go through and flexible.
Absolutely. So for a woman who's in her mid 40s, where do we get started? I mean, like, do you go to a doctor? Are there any resources? Because you talked about something so important, that there is a stigma. This is something that nobody talks about, unless you're as brave as you are. How do we get started?
I mean, the most natural place, obviously, and where I really kind of started having the conversations was with my own gynecologist. and granted, they are conditioned to say certain things to you or not say certain things to you. For me, there are certain medications that they want to promote that I'm not exactly a fan of, like hormone replacement therapy. And it may be good for some and may be not good for others. For me, it's a little bit of a fear. My mother developed breast cancer as a result of hormone replacement therapy. There is studies out there now saying that it doesn't. Um, I'm always weary, right? Do your research, always do your research, and you choose the best path for you. But with my gynecologist, we talked about, starting to do hormone panels and checking your hormones. The one thing that I learned, not through him, because they're always so quick to get in and out, is that one panel isn't going to tell you if you're perimenopausal or not. You have to, because what happens when you're in perimenopause is that your hormones will go up one day and then dive down the next day. And if you don't catch that next day, then you're not going to see it. You're only catching it on a good day. So you have to do a series of blood panels to be able to truly tell whether you are or not, right? And you can see where your testosterone is up or down, your estrogen, the cortisol is so important, because when you get into this state, your cortisol is now sparking or spiking. And that's why there's so many other factors, like, even the kinds of workouts that we used to do, high intensity cardio workouts don't work for us when it comes to weight loss, because we already have an elevated cortisol. And when we work out like that, we elevate our cortisol even more. So it's counterintuitive. So little things like this that people we don't really kind of connect the dots. So you really kind of have to do a lot of research, talk to your gynecologist, look for a functional doctor. I feel like functional doctors, in my opinion, will give you a lot more education. And I also, interestingly, I have found a lot of resources online through social channels. There's a lot of women that are documenting this on Instagram and TikTok, and they're talking about their journeys as well. And that's where I've gotten a lot of information. So,
and having a mentor and talking to friends about this, because you and I have had plenty of conversations over good wine about this, because our friends are our first chat GTPs. Because we find a lot of similarities in terms of the experiences that we face. Right?
And that's what, we have a mutual friend, Anna, who she's started seeing a functional doctor, and she was getting intel from her doctor that she was sharing with me that was making sense. So then I took that information and I went and found a different doctor. So I've started doing a series of therapies that I honestly feel have been life-changing, and kind of helping me kind of center myself back into a place where I feel like a human being again. So
what has been the most difficult symptom for you to deal with? And I'll tell you mine. The lack of sleep, waking up at 3 a.m. and not being able to go back to sleep. It's been so hard for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
So for me, it's actually, it's been the anxiety that I had, the freak out, just drowning in a glass of water, like everything gave me anxiety. So I just not being able to cope, that for me was like the most difficult thing. Just thinking that I can't get past this day. Luckily for me, sleeping is not an issue. I am like the small percentage of women that my sleep does not get affected by perimenopause. I sleep great. So I'm grateful for that.
It's funny how when we're teenagers, we don't get prepared for our first period. Nobody, unless it's your mother, right? Nobody prepares you for this, right? No. When you're pregnant and you're about to have your first child, nobody prepares you for that. And when you go through this stage in life, nobody prepares you for that.
Nope.
And you have a daughter. I have twin girls. What should we be doing to prepare our girls, at least so that they have the resources, the information, so that they feel comfortable speaking about these topics?
This is such an important and wonderful question. One of the things that I promote with my daughter, Chloe, is constant communication. I sit down with my daughter in the car on the way to school, and we talk about all kinds of things from, even just like molestation, sexual assault, things like that. Like what's comfortable, what's not, sex, she's coming into her teenage years now. She's going to be 14, sex, drugs, like there's no topic we don't talk about. And the sooner that you as a parent open up those lines of communication to make that a norm in your home, the better. And so when it came to her getting her period, I will never forget, I was in Amsterdam in a business trip when I was at Backbase. And my daughter called to tell me that she got her period. And first of all, I was devastated that I wasn't home for that. But I stood on the call with her and I walked her through everything that she, what's happening in her body. Why is she bleeding? What is she going to expect? How can it get worse? And, even little things like it can trigger. My daughter now triggered migraines for her with Aura. Yeah. She had 2 already.
Wow.
Yeah. And I suffer from migraines with Aura. So it's hormonal, right? So, and I was in 7th grade when I got my first migraine, just like she was. So, I have taken it upon myself to pave that road for her. If we don't as parents, then the world will, or no one will. Yeah. Right. So for me, it's so important that we talk about everything, not just, her menstruation or, everything, sex, drugs, alcohol, friends, career, future goals, dreams. And one day, we'll talk about perimenopause. I talk to her about it now, actually.
Yeah. Well, you should on your channel, you should put some guides for us mothers as to how to address those conversations.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And especially those of us that come from very conservative upbringings.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I can understand. It is a little bit uncomfortable, I think, the first time that you bring it up. But I will say this, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. My daughter used to cringe in the beginning. And I would have like my stomach turning as we were talking about like what's an appropriate touch or not an appropriate touch. But now we flow. We talk about everything, her and I. That's wonderful. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And have you lost your interest in wine?
No, not at all. I'm just telling you guys so much that I haven't had a chance to take a sip here.
No, but in general, through perimenopause.
No. Are you kidding?
But still bubbles, right?
I love bubbles. Yeah. That is my favorite. It will always be my favorite. However, through perimenopause and all the digestive changes, I might have to scale back the bubbles a little bit. So,
and I think one of the for me, one of the things that I started seeing is losing a lot of hair. Losing a lot of hair. And it's I've been dealing with my weight my entire life. It's been hard, but it becomes harder and harder. You have to be much more disciplined, much more diligent.
Yeah.
When you are at this stage, because metabolism is not the same.
No, it's not. It's not. And again, the cortisol plays a huge role in here. So you learn about the cortisol belly, the moon face. All of that is a result of the elevated cortisol. So kind of going back to tactics on how to, attack these little things that happen, with the cortisol. If you can get the cortisol under control, then you can start getting your weight under control. You can de-swell your face, maybe bring down the pouch, the tire, the little tire pouch that you get. And all of that comes from, cortisol comes from stress. Lack of sleep raises your cortisol. So it's all interconnected. So I actually found little tips like I used to think that deep breathing and all, box breathing, it was just a bunch of new age hooey. And I'm like, that's silly. But I started doing it and there is definitely something about it. And I created a nighttime routine where, I downshift my body. I cut the blue light. I downshift my body at a certain time. I take a warm shower at night, which helps to cool your body temperature down, which in turn helps to let your body know, hey, it's time to go to sleep. Really? You bring your air conditioning down to 68, which is the ideal temperature for sleeping.
You're killing me, 68. Oh my God.
Yeah, put some socks on, And then, you get into bed and you do deep breathing. I do like 5 minutes of box breathing. And it really, what it does, it stimulates your vagus nerve and that helps you relax and it puts you into sleep mode. So if you're able to control your stress, take deep breaths, even during the day, I've learned to take deep breaths when I'm stressed, walk away, go for a walk with my dog. little tactics like this to get your stress under control help to control your cortisol, so it can help you with the goals of losing weight and things like that. Now with the energy, the issue with the energy is it's real, right? I mean, there were days that it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm in the middle of a work session and I can't keep my eyes open. And just like when I was pregnant and I was sleepy and I would go during my lunch hour when I was pregnant and sleep in my back seat for like 30 minutes and come back to the office, I'm kind of going through the same thing, but in my perimenopause year. So I would end up like sitting on my couch for like 30 minutes, knocking out, but it's just a symptom, right?
Yeah.
So I started seeing this functional doctor and, really got into the whole peptides thing. And there's definitely something to say about, the NAD plus peptide, which is what I've been injecting. And you really feel a difference. And that has also helped, right? Because once you get your energy back, now I'm able to go back out, go for like 3-mile walks, multiple times.
But you start regaining control.
You are regaining control.
You're regaining control because it's when it's hard, because this is something, it's not like pregnancy that it's going to be 40 weeks,
Yeah.
more or less, give or take. This can span through years.
Oh, it's a decade or even longer.
Yeah.
They're saying now that you start maybe in your mid to late 30s.
Oh
So it's definitely, a long time. And by the time you realize what's going on, you're deep in it. And now to get out of it, it's been a process. So I started this process in November of, I started it sooner because the stress of the role that I was in previously, plus all the symptoms, I realized I was burning out badly. And
let's talk about that for a moment, because usually what happens to a lot of us, we're told that we're depressed, that we're going through an anxiety period.
Yep.
And there is no correlation between the symptoms and everything that goes on.
Yeah, well, that's the gaslighting that the medical industry does, and the Band-Aids that they put on for you, and they make you think that it's you're the crazy one, when it's not. It's all the scientific and physiological things that are going on in your body that you have no control over. So, when all of that was happening, I was coming down to a point where, my mom was concerned that she thought I was going to have a heart attack or that I was going to stroke out, because it was that bad.
Yeah.
Everything combined, blood pressure was consistently hypertension, like higher, it was like 160 over like 100. It was bad. The weight was out of control. I was swollen everywhere. I was stressed out. And so I had to at some point make a decision. And I was, of course, flipping out at the office, having just mental breakdowns, which was not normal. So at one point I just decided I need to look for another job. And I was like, maybe I have to take a step down or step back, or I was traveling too much all the time. So that affects. And thankfully at the end of, 2024, I was offered a role. And it was interesting because that role was way more relaxed, not a lot of traveling, very slow. And it was not really riveting stuff, but it was what I needed in that moment. And that's when I was able to slow down. And that's when I really started addressing all the health issues that I had and kind of stepping outside and smelling the roses, so to speak, because if you remember, I was telling you all the stories of my ducks.
Yes.
And I started finding, my husband's like, we've lived on this golf course for how many years now, and you're just discovering the ducks. So I had all the ducks coming to my front yard, and I had little bowls for them. And when I would see them, I would go outside and sit on the grass, and the sun would hit me, and I would enjoy the moments. And that's just sometimes what we need to do.
And it's also finding what we're passionate about. And I got asked like a couple of years ago, the 2024, what hobbies do you have? And I realized like I don't have hobbies. So for me, it's been a discovery of not necessarily finding a hobby, but things that I'm passionate about, and how do I transform that into doing something outside of work that I truly feel good about, that I enjoy.
And that is so important. I'm glad that you're saying that, because us women, type A personalities that are just like go, 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 we get sucked into our work,
Yes.
and we tend to forget we have a family. We need to make, not that we need to make I'm grateful that I have an amazing husband that comes home and he plans dinner sometimes, and he's cooking while I'm still 7 o'clock working. And we tag team that, some days it's me, some days it's him, but we just get so wrapped up in the goals and our careers and what we need to get done. And then there's the go, go, go. Our kids are going from here to there. And we really, don't stop to take care of ourselves. Go to a spa, or my latest obsession is, if I can't get a 1 hour massage, I go to Dadeland and there's the chair massages, and I sit there for 30 minutes and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Getting manicures and pedicures for me is torture. I hate it. I think it's such a waste of time. I'm trapped. But the massage for me and the little chairs is awesome. The lady already knows me.
And it's those little moments.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, because we have to confess, Feli, that for us to get a date together with our friend Anna, it takes months of planning just because of our calendars.
Yeah, it's insane. And because, our kids are growing and they're just doing more activities, and the nature of our own professional careers is we're at a higher level, we're doing more, and it really, you start realizing, like, a lot of what was your friends in your 30s and going out, and, all of that kind of starts taking a back seat, and I actually have started prioritizing just being home. We just moved into a beautiful home that I absolutely love. I love being there. I enjoy it. I love being home with my husband and the kids, and that's where my happy place is. And it's funny how things change as you get older. Remember, there was not too long ago, there was a time that I was bouncing all over the world, from Europe here to South America there to New York City, and that was what I loved. But I'm actually tired of it.
And it's okay to accept that we evolve.
Yeah.
That we evolve, our tastes change, our likings change.
Yes.
What made us feel joy a couple of years ago may not be the same thing today.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to feel good about that.
I never thought I would ever say, I find myself saying this a lot. I never thought in a million years that I would be pushing back on trips, canceling trips. And, as you mature, you definitely change your priorities and your likes and dislikes, even your friend circles change. You realize at our age, we don't have time for the BS. We don't have time for
the
drama. We don't have time for, fake friends or people that aren't there for you. We only have time for the real people. You realize that your circle kind of starts shrinking, and you only keep the people that matter, that add to you, right? That are beneficial both ways.
Yeah. Over a good glass of wine.
Oh, always. Always.
Cheers. And Feli, you are so honest and so candid. So thank you for this. I'm sure your message will resonate with a lot of us. And what was the first? You talked about going to your doctor and doing the medical test, but are there any other resources where we can go and look? Is it our friend ChatGPT? What do you recommend?
I honestly, it's going to sound funny, the place that I have found the most resources is Instagram.
Really?
Yes. We're in marketing, so we know how these things work, and they're listening all the time. And then one day, I started finding one influencer woman who was in her 40s who was talking about her journey. And through her, she's into, supplements, and, she talks about all of the weird things that you experience in perimenopause. Like I mentioned earlier, your ears itch like crazy. Or I'll get these stabbing pains, like somebody is stabbing me out of nothing is going on. It's just a split second stabbing, like all these weird symptoms that she started talking about. And I said, wow, I have the same thing. So I started following her, and she posts a lot of great content. And then since I started following her more, how the algorithm works.
Yes.
I started discovering more influencers that speak on this, and even like dietitians and professionals medical professionals that are actually speaking truth. So I know it's not the go to Google and research, but that is really where I have found,
Wow,
kind
that's
of like
amazing.
opening the door to that knowledge.
But you know where there should be more resources and more open conversations like this on LinkedIn, because that's where all of the professionals women are,
Yeah,
and nobody talks unless you're very diligent and you go to Instagram, and
yeah.
nobody talks about this.
Well, maybe I need to start
Yes,
a
yes,
group chat in
yes, yeah,
LinkedIn,
yeah.
a
A
women's group,
community,
a
yeah, a
community. Yeah,
community, a community.
yeah.
And I love the fact that you are sort of the spokesperson at your company
Oh, yeah.
for,
They all know it.
yeah,
Yeah, no, and it's listen, just like when you were asking me about having a conversation with our kids about uncomfortable things, I know that it is an uncomfortable thing for some women, especially the more reserved, women, to talk about something so private like that in front of other men. But the sooner that we put that out there and call attention to it, the better the more it becomes a norm. We take the stigma away, and maybe we'll get a little bit more understanding and compassion from our counterparts,
yeah,
which is what we really need, and
yes,
support.
yeah, yeah. So what a journey, Feli. What a great journey. And so what's next on the chapter? Because this is the conclusion to our series. We talked about your career. We talked about the ups and downs, and now we close with this final episode on perimenopause. That for me, it's been amazing to be able to open up like this with a friend.
Of course.
What's next on your chapter? What are your plans? I know you have many, but what can you share?
I have a couple of personal projects that I'm working on. I've always wanted to do a little bit of my own entrepreneurial things. So there actually are a couple of projects that I'm looking to get into down the road. And one of those is potentially teaming up with someone to open up a spa.
Mhm.
I haven't told you about this.
No, but for women like us who are going through perimenopause, so
Yeah.
we need to team up.
Yes. Yes. And you know me, I like to do everything luxe. So it's meant to be an experience, but that's a conversation I'm having with someone right now. And then I have a couple of other ventures that I want to get into. But right now, really the focus, is, I have this wonderful job with the company that I'm with now. And, I'm tasked with a job of growing the company. And, most likely in a couple of years, if all goes well, maybe I'll retire
Mhm.
if all goes well with the company, and then I can really focus on these pet projects. But for now, it's, kind of getting to the goals that I have with this company, and continuing to focus on my health. I still have a long way to go with my weight loss. Still getting, hormones and things under control. I'm working with a functional doctor, my medical doctors, and, just finding the right balance of happiness. So my kids are growing, going into high school, next year. So that's a lot of changes. So, just finding that balance of happiness, family, work, friends, life, and
And
spirituality.
I love what you're saying, because it's like a good. Today we're drinking white wine, but it's like a good blend, a good red blend. It's finding that right mix,
Yeah.
right? And it's that is different for everyone, right?
Yes.
It's different for everyone.
Yes.
And it has to be what you like,
100%.
and finding that percentage mix that is right for you.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And going back to the whole thing about how your tastes change, and the things that you like to do change. Um, Everybody evolves in their own way, and I have found, like I said, peace in my home, love being surrounded with my family. Um, maybe a weekend reorganizing my cabinets, because that's just a pastime for me. But overall, just looking for peace, finding that peaceful, momentum in life, getting through everything that we get through, work and whatnot.
What brings you joy? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's amazing. Wow. Any final closing thoughts, Feli, that you have for our audience?
I mean, honestly, don't think that you're crazy. for thinking there's something wrong with you. I will guarantee you, you're not crazy. And don't let the medical people gaslight you, the doctors gaslight you. Understand what's going on with your body, learn what's happening, and you'll get through it. You'll find you'll find your way out of it.
Yeah. And don't let them disregard you.
No, absolutely not.
And we need to become advocates for
Yes.
our own health. We
need to support I think I mentioned it in the previous podcast that we spoke about, women supporting women.
Yes.
We're all going through the same struggle. Even at this age, we get into this age and we go through the same struggle, and we need to be compassionate with each other because we don't know what the other one is carrying, right? Maybe you woke up today with bad back pain, you didn't sleep last night, and, things like that. So you need a little grace. And, as women, we should give each other grace.
Well, cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers. Feli, thank you so much for the gift of your time.
Yes.
It's such a pleasure. Let's wine.